Hi everyone, so I'm sharing a technique video with you here today on acrylic block stamping to make cards, and you can see here these are my watercolour pens by Do Crafts, but you could use gelatos, you could use normal watercolour paints, you could even use those Crayola pens that kids have. Anything that is reactive with water will work in this case. So I'm getting my acrylic block and I've got it in 3 different sizes, so I can make sort of 3 different cards, and I'm just colouring in the block, and I'm using 3 different shades of colour in this case, pink, purple and blue. And then I'm just going to take my spray bottle and I'm going to spray it with some water. And then once I've done that, this is watercolour paper, and I am going to put the watercolour paper on top of the block, and that was because it was quite wet, that block. And then I'm weighting it down. I wait about 3 minutes, and that's just to let the pigment really absorb into the paper. Now I've got my little teeny tiny 1-inch block, and I'm just colouring that in with just solid green, spraying it with water, and then smushing it down. And again, I'm going to weight this one down as well with a jar of pebbles or little glass beads, and that's just to kind of really press it down and let it absorb. And then this is the kind of the medium-sized block, and I'm getting out a different colour and colouring it in. Again, just not anything fancy, I'm just colouring the whole thing in. And this was kind of the beginning of the packaging technique. Before the packaging technique came in, people were doing this. So when you take the weight off, you can see there that it didn't have quite enough water on it because it's got gaps in it. That one's looking better. And there's the third one, which had lots of water on it, and it's got a real watercolory look to it. And then I decided that I wanted 4 of these little sort of 1-inch blocks, and 1 in each colour of green, different shade of green, to make that like a little grid. So I did that, and I just kept doing the same thing, colour it in, spray it with water, spray it down. This one I coloured in yellow to complement the orange, and yeah, if you don't add enough water, then you do get gaps in it, which is fine. If you add a lot of water, then it does splidge out around the edge, which is also fine, and it's just about getting a kind of real watercolory effect. There's my fancy paperweight again. I know, we're real high tech here. And then with this one, it just really reminded me of kind of winter colours, so I die cut some snowflakes out of some glitter paper, and then just stuck them down with a bit of Anita's tacky glue. You can see me struggling there with the bottle. Why do the nibs always get clogged? If anybody knows of any glue that doesn't clog, that would be amazing. So I'm just sticking it down, and then I ripped the edges with a ruler, because I wanted a kind of rough edged look, and watercolour gives a lovely kind of rough edge to it because it's got so many fibres in it, and watercolour paper is really thick as well. I just wanted it to have a bit more of a, I don't know, a distressed look. And then you can see with my card blank there, I'm just kind of trying to position sort of where, and I cut some blue paper, I think. Yeah, can't decide what I'm doing there. I'm obviously putting double-sided sticky tape on something. Is that the card? Is that the watercolour paper? Or is that the... No, it must be the watercolour paper. So I'm sticking some double-sided tape. Oh, and I'm putting a lot of double-sided tape on, and that was because the watercolour paper did buckle a little bit, and I wanted it to lay really flat on the card. That's right. So yeah, I cut some dark blue card out of Paper Mania paper, like cardstock. It's got a really nice like texture to it, and then used my craft knife. I don't really use a paper trimmer. I prefer to use my cutting mat and the grid on my cutting mat, and a craft knife I seem to get a straighter line. I don't know, something about paper trimmers just baffles me. And then the last thing I did was just get a sentiment. This is a sentiment from last year's Do Crafts range, saying "Let it snow," and I stamped it in Versamark ink, and then I embossed it first with white embossing powder, and then I re-stamped it again, and I went over it with a kind of holographic clear embossing powder, just to get that kind of snowy, Christmassy look. And you can see that the watercolour paper stands out really, really nicely against that dark background. It makes a really simple Christmas card, really, really simple Christmas card. So there I'm stamping it again. It doesn't really matter if it's slightly misaligned, but if you have one of those clever stamp things that lines up your stamps, that's even better. And then I used foam tape to stick it down onto my card base, just to give it a little bit of dimension. And these are some they're not white, they must be kind of holographic clear gems from the Create Christmas range, again from Do Crafts. I was making this card for a Do Crafts demo, so all the products that I've used are from that company, but obviously, you know, you can use whatever you've got in your stash to get the same effect. You don't need to go kind of Do Crafts crazy. It's just what I was using, and I went a bit mad with the gems actually, and stuck them all over the place. I'm not usually quite so blingy with my cards, but yes, I seem to have gone a little mad, but never mind, it still looks nice. And there's the finished card. I'm really, really happy with it. It looks beautiful, it's really elegant and simple. But I wanted to show you some other cards that I made using the same technique. So this one I used the medium-sized stamping block and 2 different shades of green, and then I used a stamp that I had in my stash and white embossed onto the watercolour paper, and then added the sentiment below in a kind of matching shade of green. Again, it's a Paper Mania paper. But I love this card. I think it's so just so classy. It's not normally the type of card that I would produce. I'm quite surprised myself, really. But yeah, that one is one of my favourites. That's turned out really, really nicely. And then this is the next card that I made, and I used some pattern paper on the background. This is another Paper Mania paper. This is the Capsule Pigment collection. I just thought it complemented the 2 colours that I used really nicely, and you can see those torn edges really clearly in this one. And I die cut some hearts and some little paper birds. Both of them are Dinky dies, again from the X-Cut range by Do Crafts. And I just stuck them down with some white glue, and the sentiment there is just you and me, white embossed onto the paper once I had stuck everything down. And I put some Anita's 3D clear gloss gel over the hearts, just to give that a little bit of oomph as well. I'm not totally happy with this card. It's nice. I'm not sure that it's particularly good, but you know, it's a different way of using the technique, which is what I'm trying to showcase here. So you be the judge of it. This one I love. So I used the tiny little acrylic block, and I stamped 4 different shades of green, and then I went in with little flowers with little birds and butterflies, and again I white embossed onto there using Versamark ink. You can see I've torn them in one big block there, and you can see the torn edges really clearly again, and then I have mounted the watercolour paper onto some green, and the sentiment again white embossed with with Versamark ink and then white embossing powder. I think this one looks really, really nice. It's kind of a real neutral card for any occasion. It could be a birthday, it could be a sympathy card, it could just be, you know, a thinking of you. But yeah, I'm really pleased with this. You can see this is a really, really versatile technique to do, and really easy to do with kids as well. This one, I know the colours aren't quite the right way round for a rainbow, but you know, I thought I'd go with it anyway, so I stamped a rainbow on there, and white embossed again, and then I cut out some clouds from the matching set, and again the sentiment is the same. Yeah, I did a demo with some little girls from family that stopped by my demo table while I was in the range, and they had a girl with ADHD, and she loved this technique. She got hold of my pens, she coloured, she sprayed, she smushed. She absolutely loved it. She was really thrilled with it. So definitely one, you know, if you've got kids from, you know, the age of sort of 3 or 4 even, my little girl can do it, she's 2.5, then definitely something to try with children as well, because they can make some really interesting patterns and shapes. Here's another example that I did. I covered the background with a happy birthday stamp and then mounted it on some pattern paper, and I used different cutting scissors to create a more interesting border. And that paper again in the background there, the stripy purple, is from the Paper Mania Capsule Pigment collection. And then this last one is more of a Valentine's Day card, very pink, and I just used all one colour of pink, and the whole block was just pink, and I coloured it in pink, and then I stamped with heart stamps, again Versamark ink, white embossing powder, and I used a border punch to create the scalloped circles, and I embossed the background with a Spellbinders die, and chose a matching sentiment as well there. It's very pink, it's really not my style, it's a bit yucky in my opinion, although I know other people like this sort of thing. But my aim here was just to showcase just how versatile this technique is, and I really urge you to just give it a try, because it definitely yields some really cool results. So that's my video for this week. Sorry it's been a bit lapsed recently. I went away on holiday with my family, and then I have a 2.5-year-old who likes to have temper tantrums. She's a bit emotional at the moment, but hopefully I'll get another video up very soon. So if you like this video, please subscribe and share, visit my Facebook page or my blog, and let me know that you like this video so that I can keep making more. If you have any questions, please post them below and I will very happily get back to you. Thanks for watching. Have a great week. Bye.